Vladimir had a one-room apartment, and they moved there to live. When Snezana left her parents and started to receive a monthly allowance from her father, it was as if she was off the chain. Constantly some friends, drinking and partying. Vladimir sometimes came in from the night shift, and she wasn't home yet. "Where do you always disappear?" he'd say to her. He wanted to take her by the scruff of the neck and shake her properly to beat the crap out of her. He remembered he'd promised her parents he'd fix her, so he held himself back. 5 years went by like that. Snezana did whatever she wanted. She found some friends and went to nightclubs. It was impossible to find her at home. Vladimir did not do anything. He took her to various specialists. Even once took a vacation, and they went together to a sanatorium, where they treat such people. But nothing took Snezana. Only she arrived, not even 2 days passed, as she was already flying to her friends, moreover, to those who were below her social status. "Will you never settle down?" Vladimir asked her. "Leave me alone," she told him. She hated her husband for being such a dummy. Another man would have slapped her a couple of times to calm her down. "Okay, I'll let it go, but be warned, with that attitude, you won't last long." He left and slammed the door. No one knew what was going on in Vladimir's head, and perhaps he already regretted that he had once made such a choice. He was so confident that he could make a normal girl out of this girl, that now he blamed himself for the fact that everything turned out so. One day he came home from work and told Snezana that he was being transferred to another city. By and large, she did not care where to live with him, so she silently agreed, and they got ready to move. The other city had service housing. A couple of weeks, Snezana was at home, and already then she had new friends, and again the girl was walking. This city was bigger, so there were more opportunities there. As such, the family was no longer there, but they continued to live together. Once Snezana sat with her acquaintances in a club. She didn't realize much when a young man came up to her and asked her to dance. They were having such a good time on the dance floor that they did not notice anyone around them. At some point, the new acquaintance took her firmly by the waist and pulled her close to him. They started kissing. This is the kind of man I've always waited for, a confident man who can take a woman and lead her. She looked into his eyes. "Let's go." He pulled her by the hand. They went into the bathroom, closed themselves in a stall, and did everything Snezana wanted to do there. "You're awesome." They walked out of there. "You too," he told her, sent her a kiss, and left. "Where are you going?" She shouted back at him, but he didn't even turn around. She went back to the girls. They sat and looked at their friend with admiration. "What, jealous?" She sat down at the table. "Wow," they said to her. "Shit, I don't want to go home," Snezana said. "Why do you live with him?" the girls asked her. "It's none of your business." She stood up, took her purse, and went to the exit. With Vova, they also had intimacy, but it was very rare. In those moments when he was at home, and managed to hold his wife so that she did not go anywhere. This morning, when he got home from his shift, he pulled her to him. "Oh, go away, my head hurts," she told him. "Snezana, you and I are husband and wife, and we don't live like that," he told her. "Leave me alone." "Ah, go and talk to someone else," she told him. "Come here." He yanked her toward him. When they had everything happened, she asked him to draw a bath and lay there for a long time soaking. "Where are you going?" He saw that after the bath she came out, put on makeup, dressed, and was already standing at the exit. "None of your business," she told him. "And I prepared dinner. I thought you were hungry after today's pleasures," he told her. "Okay, I'll stay home tonight." She put her purse down and went to the kitchen. They ate, and then Vladimir went about his business, and Snezana turned on the TV and lay on the couch. It had been a couple of months since the girl had felt ill. She wrote it all off to poisoning, because a few days in a row, she and her girlfriends had been drinking. "Vova, take me to the hospital, I feel sick," she said. "Okay now, get ready." He agreed to everything. After they arrived at the hospital, the doctor smiled and said that there was no poisoning and that they would soon have a baby. That can't be. Snezana looked at the doctor. She remembered exactly that the guy at the club had a rubber band. And from Vova, she never even thought that she would ever get pregnant. How could she not? Here is a test that confirms it, and at the examination everything showed. The doctor surprised her surprise. Snezana went out into the corridor, sat down on the couch, and closed her eyes with her hands. Why are you not happy about this event? Now we will have a child, and we will live like a real family. Maybe you'll finally settle down, he said. Oh, at least you don't pester me, she asked him. A week passed, and she had to register, but she didn't even think about it. Vladimir almost dragged her to the hospital by force. She was given a referral for tests that had to be taken within a week. She went there alone, and when everything was ready, she came to the reception. Here the doctor shocked her with another unpleasant news. Your husband must take tests too, he said. What for? Snezana did not understand. So it is supposed to, the doctor told her, and put in front of her one of the small papers where it was written in red pencil positive. What is this? Snezana looked at him. It's an HIV test, he told her. What? She jumped up from her chair. Don't worry so much. It's not safe in your condition, the doctor warned her. Are you saying that I have HIV? Snezana was frightened. In all probability, yes, he pointed to the documents. She could not believe it. Snezana came home, and without saying anything, went and lay down on the sofa. What did the doctor tell you? Vladimir came to her. That you need to take tests. She pulled out her unfortunate paper and showed it to him. What are you doing? Vladimir shouted at her for the first time since they had lived together. I don't know, she said. Vladimir shoved the paper in his pocket and went to the kitchen. The next day, he was on his way to the clinic to take tests. His head was spinning different things. He was very afraid for his future fate. After all, if his analysis turned out to be positive, then he would no longer be able to work in the organs, and in general, he would not be able to work anywhere. Most likely, he would soon die at all. Such thoughts were spinning in his head. He took the tests, which were to be ready only the next day. All day he sat at work, as a twitchy, and the next morning, when his shift was over, he immediately went to the clinic. The test was positive, which was to be expected. He was tearing up, rushing home, not remembering himself. Out of anger, on the way he stopped at a bar and asked the bartender to pour him something stronger. He complied with his request, but it wasn't enough. Then some young men came into the bar. They sat down with Vladimir, and they started talking. And it so happened that he went home towards evening. Are you still asleep? He shouted in a drunken voice. Vova, what's wrong with you? Was surprised Snezana. You still ask what's wrong with me? He threw his jacket at her. Since Snezana was used to sleeping only in her panties, she took this jacket and pulled it over herself. What's going on? She asked him. You've ruined my whole life, he said to her and shook his sheet in front of her nose. What does it have to do with me? Maybe it's you, she told him. Me? I took you from your parents. I thought you'd make something of yourself. You're such a pretty girl, from a good family, and yet you act like the last beast. He grabbed her by the hem of his jacket, but Snezana pulled away. I'll kill you, he shouted at her. She ran out of the apartment, but caught on the threshold and flew down the stairs. Vladimir locked the door so that she would not come back and went to the couch. He did not want to get his hands dirty with this woman. Snezana hit her head hard more than once. She stood up. She was very dizzy and very nauseous. She was wearing nothing but her panties and her husband's jacket, so she walked out to the entryway. The girl knew that her acquaintance lived a few houses away, so she decided to walk to her. But already at the corner of the house, she felt dizzy and lost consciousness. It was late in the evening, so no one noticed. She doesn't know how long she lay there. She didn't know anything else at all. The moment when she fell, one of the vagrants who were sitting nearby in the dump saw it. He called out to his companions. They saw a young unconscious girl lying practically on the garbage dump, and they approached her. "Probably a prostitute," said one of them. "Why do you think so?" the other one asked him. "Look how she's dressed. She was running away from a client," his friend suggested. "That's what we got today." One of them grabbed her with his dirty hands, and they dragged her into the bushes. There they wanted to do their dirty deeds and then leave her. And just as they were getting down to business, one of them suggested, "Let's see if she's got any money on her." They started going through her pockets, and then, from one of them, a small piece of paper fell out. "What is it?" one of them asked. The others picked it up, and when they read that she was HIV positive, they dropped the girl and the paper and ran away. When a few minutes had passed, one of them stopped and looked back. "So what if she is HIV positive?" he said to himself. "We didn't do anything to her." He went back to the girl. He wanted to pick her up, but he couldn't do it. So he took off what he called his jacket, put her on it, and dragged her along the ground. But when he saw that the girl's head hit the ground, he put her on his shoulder. He walked a few meters and realized it was heavy. Whoever he approached. A car drove by, but it didn't stop because a dirty homeless man slowed it down. People were frightened away from him too. Stopping every 2 meters, he dragged Snezhana on his back. And so he reached the nearest hospital. There the girl was immediately hospitalized. "Can I come to see her?" asked the man. "Of course, just wash and change your clothes," the nurse told him. Snezhana was lying in the ward, but she did not regain consciousness for a long time. When she finally woke up, she did not realize where she was. The doctor came in. "How are you feeling?" he asked her. "I don't know, my head hurts a lot," Snezhana told him. "I want to upset you. You were pregnant, but you lost the baby," he told her. "I was pregnant." The girl looked at him. She touched her head. One place was completely shaved. "Yes, you had to have a little surgery." The doctor explained the lack of hair to her. "Where am I?" she asked him. "Don't you remember anything?" he guessed. "I don't think so." She shook her head in different directions, which only made it hurt more. "Wait, maybe you haven't quite come to your senses yet, or maybe your mind doesn't want to remember what happened. But the person who brought you here said that you were a prostitute and that you tested positive for HIV. Even though our tests didn't show it, the doctor said at length. Snezhana just stared at him. These words were nothing to her. "What is your name? You don't remember either." The doctor asked another question. No, she did not shake her head so much anymore. The girl was lying on the bed, looking at the ceiling. She tried to think about something, but nothing came into her head. She saw the window, the door, the bed, the nightstand in front of her. She knew about all this, but she couldn't remember anything about herself. Snezhana touched her head once more and closed her eyes. Her head ached terribly. At that moment, a nurse entered the room. "I need an IV," she said. "Tell me, how long have I been lying here?" the girl asked her. "Yes, about 6 days," the nurse answered her. Snezhana felt the prick of the needle and closed her eyes again. The next day, some man came into the room. She looked at him and wondered who had come to see her. Could it be that she was a vagrant, and it was her husband or some other relative? "Hello," he said to her. "I brought you here. You'll pardon me for my appearance. My name is Semyon." "And I don't know my name," she said. "When we found you, you were unconscious and lying near the garbage cans," he told her. "Perhaps I went to take out the garbage and fell," Snezhana suggested. "We didn't see where you came from, but I don't think you were taking out the garbage in your jacket and underwear," the man told her. At that moment, the doctor entered the room, and he looked at Semyon. "I guess we should report it to the police," he told him. "Yes, okay," he nodded.